Hello guys, welcome to Life with the Murphy Family. I am your host Alexis Murphy. Y'all, it's getting closer and closer to that time and I am so excited and I cannot wait to see this little boy. So, let's get into it. Alrighty. These videos getting later and later because I'm getting tired and tired of you guys, so forgive me. Today I am 38 weeks pregnant. I have 14 days left. The baby is about 19 and a half inches long. The baby weighs about 6 pounds and 3/4 ounces. I doubt that because I always have big babies. So what's going on with my baby? They don't have anything interesting in the daily reads. Newborn screening, test explain, parent-child bonding ideas at every age. Losing your mucus plug. Now with Zariah, I lost my mucus plug it was some days over. 40 weeks and some days over when I lost my mucus plug. They don't have anything interesting I can elaborate on. But I felt my first contraction and they stayed for a couple of minutes. It was the usual. So I'm used to it. I'm ready. I'm so ready, and I'm just trusting God that everything's gonna work out fine. So let's get right into what I'm going to talk about today. I started to talk about the birthing ball, exercise on the birthing ball, but I'm just really too tired to do any little exercises. So I think I just may incorporate exercising on the birthing ball in my next week's video. And I just wanted to talk about something close to my heart. I'm sure you guys can see I have this picture right here. We're going to talk about this baby right here. I feel led to share his story with you guys. This is my son, Zane Elijah Murphy. He was born November the 5th, 2018, and he died January the 21st, 2019. So he only lived for 2 months. And I'm telling you, this baby has inspired my life, and he continues to live on in such an amazing way. So I just wanted to share his story and my story, and that's what I'm going to talk about today. He was such a special little boy, and I just felt led to share him today, something sentimental to my heart. So that's my baby. This is the book that I'm reading about grief. Holding on to love after you lost a baby. I just think that, I had bought this book, I think in 2020, I think. I had bought it and I just put it on the shelf. Wasn't ready to read it. And now it's 2022. Oh, by the way, Happy New Year's to everyone. It is 2022. And I started picking it up last year at the end of 2021 because I love to read. And at first I was like, I didn't think I would enjoy it. But it is an amazing book. It's one of the best books I've read about grief and how dad grieves and how mom grieves and how we grieve different and how we deal with friends and people on the outside that have never lost a child really don't know what it feels like, and they don't know how to approach you. And it's a really good book. It's called Holding On to Love After You Lost a Baby by Gary Chapman. I'm sure any of you ever heard of the 5 love languages. He writes that and he incorporates that in this book. And then he got someone, Candy McVar. Her story of losing a child was very, very touching, very sad, very touching. And in her story, there's some things that could have been prevented, but doctors and stuff wasn't paying attention. So this is what I'm reading to cope, and I thank God for where I've come. So let's get into it. So what I'm going to elaborate on is, I'm going to share my story, and then I'm going to share what I've looked up and what I've found out about women, particularly black women. I'm not saying that white women don't get ignored. There are stories out there that I've ran across on social media where white women take their babies in, they go have a pregnancy, and they end up coming out with a stillborn because doctors don't believe them, or just other things that happen. I've seen a story where a white lady took her child to daycare, and her child was not properly taken care of, and the baby died, and she still haven't got any justice. So I'm not going to say that white women are not ignored, or not ignored in the hospital as well. I've seen plenty of stories, but the rates on black women are higher than it is white women. And so I'm just going to go into and share my story about having Zane and having a miscarriage behind losing my son, and how I was ignored about the concerns of my children during my pregnancy and Zane. So like I said, and then I'll read a little bit of an article that I found, and so let me get right into it. So in 2018, and I have a book that's going to be coming out, and it's called I Choose to Live 2, The Life and Loss of Zane. I have really been procrastinating on releasing it yet because I'm pregnant and I don't want to try to do too much at one time. But his book will be on Amazon pretty soon, and you will know the details of that story. So I'm going to give you a little surface of my sweet son, Zane. So in 2018, I found out I was pregnant with Zane, and everything was normal. It was just like I was used to it. And I think by the time we discovered he was a boy, I told myself I didn't want any more kids. I said I was done. I didn't want any more. I was considering options on how to use some kind of form of birth control. I was considering getting my tubes tied. I was even considering my husband getting a vasectomy. We had 4, and we said we didn't want any more because it was just not so much that the pregnancy was difficult. It was just getting a little rough. It was a rough season in our lives with 4 little babies and really no family help, no nothing. We didn't have nobody to lean on. And I was trying to look for a job. I was trying to find one, and it was just hard. So I felt like, okay, I got my 2 boys, I got my 2 girls, that's it. So when it was time to have him, he was actually due, if I'm not mistaken, November the 23rd. So I went to the hospital on the 5th to the doctor, OBGYN. And by this time, this would be my 4th upper door. I'm used to it. I'm used to not feeling the pain. So I go in, and the OBGYN checks me, and he said, you're 5 centimeters dilated. And I was like really hurting with this baby. It was just hurting. I was like, oh my gosh, when can I have him? So I had him, I'll say, about 2 weeks early. So the doctor checked me and said, you're about 5 centimeters dilated. You need to come on in the hospital. You're not going to make it. So me not knowing what I know now, we rearranged our schedule and got the kids situated. And we went in the hospital and we had Zane. And I went in about 12. And about 6 o'clock that morning, I think we went in 12 o'clock at night. About 6 o'clock that morning, Zane was born. He weighed 7 pounds and 13 ounces. Having him was one of the most joyfulest times that in the hospital that I could ever imagine. Everyone was laughing, and I was already on medicine, and before you know it, it was effortless pushing. He just bloop, he came out. And so Sam said, "Doctor, there go the baby." So they took him out, and he got all his, the goop, the eye goop. We declined to give him the VK, not the VK, but it's 2 shots that the babies get. And me and Sam had learned a little bit about vaccines and, how they can hurt you. And we seen how it done some stuff to our son. So we just decided that we didn't want all those shots and stuff like that. We wanted, a healthy baby. So we declined one of them, but we were told that if he was going to get circumcised, he needed a vitamin K shot, because that vitamin K shot would stop brain bleeding. Now, I have no idea how circumcising the penis can cause a baby to bleed from the brain. And now, after I've done my research, it just don't make no sense. So we didn't know. So we said, okay. I had him. He was beautiful. And automatically, I'll say about 2 days in his life, he was just dripping milk from his nose. And I asked the nurse, and she was like, "Oh, that's fine. He's okay." I didn't think nothing of it. Brought him home on Zipporah's birthday, which is the 7th. So if I had him on the 5th, 6th, 7th, we didn't stay in the hospital no time. From what they saw, everything was checked out. Everything was good. From what they claimed, he was fine. So we brought him home, and he slept for about 2 weeks. And when he woke up, and started being alert and started showing his character, I breastfed him. He vomited so bad. He could not sleep. He cried. And we knew something was wrong with him. I took him to the doctor for like 3 times in his life, and they told me, the first time I took him, they told me, because he was just throwing up so much, they said, "Oh, just sit him up and burp him, he'll be fine." Second time I took him, they was like, he'll be okay. The third time I took him, I think the second time I took him, I think he was due for a checkup, and they ruled out everything was fine. By the third time I took him was on Christmas Day of 2018, and the nurse said he got gas. He just probably got gas, he'll be fine. And let me get you home for Christmas. So I came back home and I told my husband. They said he was fine. But it just wasn't adding up. By January, I had him in daycare because I was trying to get a job. I just started a new job, and they told me he had a high fever. And then I noticed as time went by, he sweated a lot. He was just really sick from start to beginning, from the beginning to the end. So from January the 21st, I had a job interview, and I went out to go get the job interview. I didn't get the job. I came back home frustrated. I'm trying to make this story short because it's very emotional for me. I didn't get the job. I came back home. I told Sam I need to go to the park to clear my head. I don't want to take out this frustration on the kids. And I remember Sam holding him. He said, "Let's come get the baby." And I told him, I said, "I just need a break." So I went to the park, parked the car. I had apologized to God because I was so mad. I was cussing, I was fussing, I was just frustrated of why things wasn't getting better for us. And I just held my head down and I said, God, I just don't know. And then when I looked at my phone, Sam had inboxed me because my old phone wasn't getting a good signal. And he said, Zane's not breathing. And I'm like, what? So I went back home, rushed in, and I found him just lifeless in Sam's arms. And I screamed, I cried, I went out. I remember going out to the tree, just pleading with God, like, if you save him, I'll live for you. Whatever you want me to do, God, I'll do it. Took the ambulance forever to come. When they did come, they didn't let me ride on the ambulance with Zane. I followed behind them. Police, about 4, 5, 6, 7 police, I'll say about 4 or 5 showed up. They searched our home like we was drug dealers, from what Sam was telling me, because I was at the hospital. They made us evacuate our kids, gave it to a friend, and Sam sat in the police car for 3 hours, and he was never able to see Zane. So I was at the hospital. They wouldn't let me see my son. They had me locked up in a room with a police officer waiting on a detective to come. I began to scream, like, why are y'all treating me like a criminal? And I didn't even get to see him take his last breaths. It was just trauma all around. I seen only one nurse cry. She was giving me papers to release him to go ahead and pass. And I wasn't thinking straight. I wish that I would have begged for more time for him, because they had told me he had a false pulse, but he didn't. And they told me he's gone. And so finally when the detective came, he was very manipulative. He tried to make me look like I co-slept with him, and it was devastating. So by the time I seen him from a distance in his room, and I seen tubes all over him, and I didn't even make it to the room. I didn't even make it to the room because I was just so devastated, and I let out this scream that was out of this world. I let out this scream that was just out of this world. And they had to take me, had to drive me home. And when I got home, there were still cops at the house. And I was so mad at the detective because they didn't give me the opportunity to tell Sam that he was gone. They told him, and everybody left. And I never heard from them again. I never heard from them again. So, it was like about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It was a sunny day, but it was a horrible day. And by the time everybody left, I'll say about 4, 5, 6, I had posted on Facebook that he died. And some people started coming over. And it was the ultimate shock of my life. Let me see how much time I got left. 1 minute. Well, this looks like it's going to be a part 2, but I'm going to keep talking. But it was like the ultimate shock of my life. I couldn't believe that my baby that I had just had 2 months ago died. I had so many plans for him, and I wanted to see him grow up with his brother, Zachariah, and his 2 sisters. And he was gone. And I don't think my life would never be the same. And I tell y'all, in 2019, I went through some dark days. I cannot began to tell you how dark my days were, I couldn't make sense of it. I threw his seed away because that's where I didn't know whether it was in that seat when he died because I wasn't there. But we moved shortly after we had the funeral and everything, and we got this house, and I just didn't want to be reminded of the memories anymore. But I don't want to tell too much of it because I go in very details in my book. And, I wrote one book where it's called I Choose to Live Out of the Shadows into the Light. It's on Amazon. And the second one was I Choose to Live 2, which hasn't been published yet. But in the midst of all of that, I had to choose to live. And I did. And because I chose to live, I was able to give birth to Zariah at home, and now I got me a son that I cannot wait to meet. So I'm going to cut this right here because I don't want this to cut off on me.